that pioneer spirit. Little businesses that have grown into big ones because it's a place where one man, any man, can do things on his own. Indiana.
The biggest difference with this Fiat than any other car I've ever done was I was not looking for it. I wasn't looking for a Fiat 600. In the weirdest way, this Fiat started as the drawing of the Bug. I sat down on my kitchen table, drew it, posted a picture saying I was going to be putting a 6-cylinder in a Bug, and Paul from H-Gas got a hold of me and said, "Why don't you change this around to fit in the H-Gas rules?" And I was so bid on the Bug that I couldn't fit the rule set, but I was definitely going to build that car. And then it just stayed in the back of my head, I need to start looking for an H-Gas car. And it started this journey of what cars fit me. A lot of the cars that I liked, like I was looking at a Vespa at one time, and it was too small for the class. The crazy thing about this is how this Fiat did come into my life is I show up to Creative Carcraft to buy all the fiberglass from David Wiley for the Bug. He's got all my fiberglass fenders and everything done. I show up, this Fiat, which had no big thing on the side at that time, was sitting in his driveway with a for sale sign on it. Well, immediately before I even go inside, I send a picture to Paul at H-Gas and I was like, "Hey, is this a car that will fit into your rule set? If so, I'll go in here and buy this thing from David." Well, he said, "Yeah, that's a good one. You know, that's pretty much the smallest car that you can run in H-Gas," which is perfect because I mean, I'm kind of the guy known for building small cars. So I walk in, tell David, before I even look at any of my fiberglass, I hate to say I didn't care about the fiberglass, but I was so like starstruck by this one that I really wanted it. And he said, "Sold it to a guy in Hawaii, so sorry you missed out on that one." But that did put in my head that there's my H-Gas car I need to look for now is a Fiat 600. I didn't have a clue how hard they were to find. Then when I came back home from David's, I drew a picture of the Fiat, and it's kind of crazy because when you look at it, it's pretty much the Krusty Krab. Like, it's what I drew, and I didn't change much on the car from what I seen at David's, but I loved the car that was sitting at his place so much that I was like, I'm pretty much going to build that exact same car. I don't have to change much. And then fast forward right at about 2 years, a year and a half, 2 years, I'd stayed in touch with Paul. We raced some of the same events together with his Bug and my Bug at a couple little nostalgic events, not Southeast Gasser events, but just odd and end local things. And he always kept saying, "Man, build an H-Gas car, come racing with me." He's trying to build that up. And David calls. He says, "Hey, do you know anybody looking for a Fiat 600? I said, "Dude, I haven't stopped looking for a Fiat 600. It's never stopped. I'm eat up with one. What do you have?" And he said, "Well, the guy in Hawaii never came and got it. He bought it and everything and couldn't figure out a way to get it to Hawaii, and he's wanting to sell it. So I'm trying to help him sell it." So I'll take it. And I think I sent the money, and we were waiting on the money to clear in Hawaii, so I'm sitting here like just chomping at the bit wanting to go get this car. The second they okayed it, me and my wife Ruthie, we went down there and loaded it up at David's. And it was almost like, "Dude, why didn't you sell it to me last time? We wasted all this time. I could already be racing this car," just jokingly, me and David are buddies now. But I was so thrilled to get the car, and honestly, I never even looked at it from a condition standpoint. I didn't care how bad the car was. I wanted it. I wanted to fix that car. So I'm gonna do a walk around once we get there, kind of show you everything, and we're gonna get to meet David and see some of the stuff he's working on right now. I've been seeing him post pictures of like giant body panels he's making for Bugs right now, so can't wait to see what he's up to, and check this Fiat out that I've kind of bought off of my memory. So let's hope it's as good as I remember. hours to go, and then I'm probably gonna go ahead and wash this thing tonight and go through the parts. I don't think I can stand it, so stay tuned. All right, it's home. 58 Fiat 600. It is finally here. You can see the size difference too. That's how much shorter it is than the banana hammock. It's a solid, I don't know, probably 18 inches shorter or so. It's a significant difference, but it's been a long day. It's been about a 12-hour trip today. We're back in the middle of the night, but it is finally home, and I'm beyond happy with it. You can see inside the cage and everything. I'll get better videos of everything too, so you guys can check it out, but I am so happy with it. So I bought this Fiat in the middle of the shutdowns, knowing that I wouldn't be able to get to it because I was right in the middle of the banana hammock build. So I didn't want to stop the banana hammock to start on the Fiat. Another thing is, guys, if I would have bought that Fiat, the banana hammock would have never existed. You know, I wouldn't have built that Nash. So I'm glad that it held off the way it did, and I bought the car 2 years later because it allowed me to get my Bug and the Nash done before it. And now seeing them all together, they're like a big family. They were just meant to be. But that Fiat sat in the back building once we got it here. I didn't clean it up. I didn't take any parts out of it, nothing. I thought if I get interested in that car, I'll forget what I'm supposed to be doing on the Nash. So I put it back in the back building in the corner for a while. Didn't think about it much, you know, I on purpose. I tried not to because I was so interested in it. And then the day that we got the Nash done, it pretty much started that, guys, this is next. You know, the Fiat is next. And I got so fired up about it that I just had to get started.
Obviously, with all these builds, we always talk about how the budget needs to be closest to the number 0. So you got to do the Thrash with the banana hammock, but now for this Thrash, the H-Cast, how did you fund this next build?
Well, I was sitting there dead broke from the banana hammock. I mean, it took everything. So I started thinking, like, what do I have to sell? I was hoping I would have enough parts to sell, and I kept walking around my 56 single cab Peanut, and I actually used it almost as storage to keep some of my valuable parts in the bed of it. And I just kept going by and walking around it, and I wasn't driving it very much. And then I stopped and thought, if this channel's gonna work, if we want to do this and really pursue and make these cars nice and reliable and get them done quick to make these videos, I'm gonna have to part with Peanut to do it. And it's a rough day, you know. It was seeing Peanut leave, and then when you're looking at the car we're going to go, I've got a 56 single cab that's restored and done. I mean, the thing is ready to show anywhere in the country, and I'm selling it to work on a old crusty Fiat 600. You know, it seems ridiculous, but looking back now, I don't regret it an ounce. But the day that it was leaving, I had so many doubts of, you know, why am I getting rid of this, really my dream car, to do all this with the possibility of it failing. And I mean, that's another thing that ended up being great to remind myself, is that the pursuit is more important than the success or failure of it. I want to try. I want to finish things. I want to go in 100%. And it was easy to do that. It was easier. I shouldn't say easy. It was easier for me to do that and accept the fact that Peanut was going to go to help fund this show. So now that we've got some money set aside to do all this stuff with, it's time to drag the car in and really commit. I really planned on them being episodes because this car was getting built for the 2022 Sega series. Walter comes over to help start making little clips. I didn't want everyone to have to wait 6 months at a time to see these videos. I really, you know, because we're going to do them full length, I was thinking I would do 5 or 10 minute videos weekly and then start sharing it that way. Well, Walter comes over and we start working on this thing. We weren't working on it 10 minutes and then decided,
let's build this thing now. I got excited about it long before it ever moved into the shop. When you build a car, you can see the process in your head before it's built. So I could see the car done. Of course, I know how Mikey is. You get the gears rolling, it gets done.
it's time to commit to this thing for 2021. If we're going to do it, let's do it. Let's go all in. Let's get this thing. It raced in Alabama back in the day. There's an Alabama race at the end of the Sega series. So let's shoot to get that thing to Alabama for 2021's Alabama Sega series. Well, me and Walter, we started tearing into it and we realized that it needed more attention than just a couple little how-to videos. I didn't know the floor was as bad a shape it was. We really started stripping it and realizing this is a big project. Like we're gonna have to jump in and commit a lot of time to this thing. So all these panels I planned on making or just finding a parts car or something, Mr. Fiat really came through for us on the nose. I got one half of the floorboard in. That's what I'm gonna work on today, is getting the other half in. And then it's cage time. I mean, we're to the point now to where everything is getting rigid enough to start planning out where the engine transmission's gonna set and stay for good. So, big day today. That's when everything really sinks in that this isn't episodes, this is a movie itself. You know, we are going to have enough work to do this thing, and at the time, no one knows this, I never told anybody this, I was planning on painting this car back nice and calling it the King Crab, is what I was going to call the car. And then it cost so much money to start getting parts and pieces and planning out a budget that the Crusty Crab came to fruition pretty quick. I was like, you know what? I fell in love with the car the way it's set in Tennessee the first time I seen it. So let's just try to blend in and preserve the car I found and fell in love with. And that's how the name of the Crusty Crab came out of it all, because it's like, we are going to leave it a little crusty. And I didn't want to give up crab because the car always reminded me of a little like hermit crab, you know. So I was like, I think going from King Crab to Crusty Crab, and then who knows, down the road we may, get a wild hair in our ass and want to paint it and call it the King Crab. Who knows, That'd
be cool to have two transitions of the first version was a Crusty Crab, and then when we painted it, King Crab. Go back to the original idea.
Yeah.
Like that, have like two.
Yeah, one of these days.
Yeah, two lifestyles.
Trust me, don't hold your breath, man. Yeah. So for like the power plant and everything on this car, I was gonna like try to rely on my luck a little bit, and I entered in a drawing for the Beelzebub. The car we end up racing with in HGAS. I feel, like I bought like 2 or 3 raffle tickets for that thing with the pure intention on gutting that car for everything for this car. So thank God I didn't win, because the guys that ended up with it, we actually race with now. But it's kind of funny that the engine, transmission, all this stuff when we're getting going on this car, we didn't have any of it. I didn't know what we were going to do, literally no clue at all. And we're like, yeah, we're going to race this car this year with no engine, transmission, or nothing. Like, we had nothing to even move it. And here we're relying on winning a raffle to race this car. So, needless to say, the raffle didn't work. Lost that. And then I told Walter, I was like, well, buddy, we have to find an engine or put one together or something. So I started looking for cars that were already running and driving. I got on like the Samba and Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. Started looking for cars that I could gut the engine and transmission out of. No luck, couldn't find anything. So then it was like, guys, let's just buy an engine. Let's find one. And I did a search on Facebook, just kept looking and looking, and I found the engine that we ended up getting, which was a 2165cc. It was only 2 hours from us, and me and Walter jumped right in the truck, went and got it. And it was everything he said it was gonna be. You know, he didn't lie about anything. You know, he told us that it was a mild street motor, but big CC, so the potential was about endless with it. And that's kind of what we wanted. I didn't want the car to be so much power that it was hard to deal with and difficult to learn, you know, how to shift the gears, how to actually race the car. So it was just easier for us to get a street engine and build kind of a hot street car to go racing with all of these race cars. So we have an engine figured out, but as far as the transaxle goes, I was hoping to buy a new one. Everyone had like an 8-month wait on a new transaxle, so that would be okay for next season, but it doesn't help us for this season. So I started looking around and trying to find one that was together, ready to go, you know, and didn't really care if it was a stock one or anything. I just wanted a new one. Well, I ended up coming up with that transaxle that it was new, rebuilt, ready to go. And I thought, well, that'll be good for us for at least this season, and then I can use it as like a street transmission later. So I found that transaxle. I got a hold of the guy. It was everything that I thought that I needed. You know, I thought if it's a good, healthy, you know, pro comp transmission, it'll hold up to the little bit of racing I'm going to do with it this year. And then I told my wife, hey, let's take the kids. The thing was in Florida. I would have loved to found one a little closer to home, but that one was the first one that came up. So jumped on it, bonsai trip to Florida with the wife and kids, and ended up staying for a week and doing a Disney vacation out of it too. And you'll later find out that the best thing that came from that trip was the Disney trip, you know, with my wife and kids. That was fun. You'll see plenty of that later on. So now our parts pile is tall. It's time to start actually physically working on this car. The few things that are obvious to address is the rot. You know, it had a lot. Floorboards were gone, rockers were gone, the nose was all smashed and puttied up to where they're unfixable. I mean, you could have, but you would have spent way more time and effort than it would have been worth. The one thing that I didn't buy was the quarters. These quarters looked like they were cut out with a damn chainsaw. I mean, it was bad. And they were cut out for these giant tires the car had on it when I got there that just looked ridiculous on the car. I mean, I wanted the tires sticking out, but I didn't want the thing sticking out, you know, a foot on each side. Went ahead, got the back tires mounted to those BRM wheels and got those mounted on the car. Once those were mounted on the car, I started bending all the round rod and almost making like a little skeleton to start on the quarters and fill them in, because what I wanted was, I wanted a tight gap. Of course, I wanted enough to where it wouldn't rub the tire, but I wanted a nice clean gap around the wheel instead of one that looked like it was just randomly cut, you know, like it had on it before. And adding that little bitty round rod in there added a lot of structure to that quarter too. The car actually started feeling solid again, because I'm surprised, as bad as it ended up being, I'm surprised it made the trailer ride home. So it gets to the point where we start like physically fixing the rockers that were rusted, get them cut out, the nose gets cut out and everything. And then the timeline starts to sink in. That's like, guys, half of the race season that we thought we were going to be able to getting this car done in a few days, half of it's gone, guys. We're starting to dwindle down to where we may make one race with this thing, you know, if we're lucky. So from the time all the sheet metal started getting going until like we start really talking about let's start picking a race to tell them we're coming to, because they wanted to know when it was going to be ready. And I told them this year, and I told them at that point, it was like, well, let me see what races you guys have left. And when I seen the Alabama race, it was like, the Alabama race isn't the last one of the season, but if we can only pick one, let's do it in Alabama, since the car was raced in Alabama in the 70s. You know, I just think that to show it respect, we need to take it back home and race it for the first time. So I got a hold of the Southeast Gasser guys and told them, hey, we're going to be at the Alabama race. I told them we would. So at that point, I'm a man of my word. If I say I'm going to do it, we're going to do it. And failure was not an option starting then. So I'm on the phone with them. I tell them, yeah, we're going to be there. Everything's good. No worries. I hang it up and then I start panicking. You know, it's like, what the hell did I just tell him we could do? You know, I'm not a superhero here, you know. Well, then you turn around and look at this car that I just thumbs up, green light, will be there. And it's a shell of a car. There isn't a car there. We have a list of, we got a to-do list a mile long to do on this thing. And it's like, you know what? Let's not focus on that. One thing at a time. Next thing, roll bar. So when we started doing the roll bar, I actually bought a pre-made roll bar kit for a Volkswagen Beetle. And it ended up working out almost perfect. Now there was one spot to where we were in here welding it all up and we ran out of tubing, that we didn't have quite enough tubing because of the slope of the roof on the Fiat's a little longer than the Bug. So we were, you know, a few inches short. So we're thinking, well, with the steel shortages around here and everything, this may hold off, and this may be the reason we don't, you know, that we're not able to go racing. Run down to good old Jeremy Loffer at Nightcrawler Customs, and he's got one stick left of exactly what we needed. And he said, just take it, man, don't even worry about it. So here we go again, Jeremy bailing us out all over again. B-pillar to the roll bar, you know, that way if it does roll, the sheet metal's actually attached to the roll cage, you know what I'm saying? So I start getting a few things done and I'm ready to start putting the engine transmission in, like really getting all the hard parts in the car and set up and good to go. And my nephew, he's got some health problems that really have gave us a lot of scares this year. And he comes up and goes to Cincinnati every couple weeks to do some treatments. He said that, hey, I actually want to be in the shop a little bit and learn kind of what you guys are doing. He is even talking about being a mechanic, you know, later on in his life. We did have one day, full day out in the shop where he felt great. I mean, I was, for a little bit, I forgot that he was sick at all, which is exactly what situations like yesterday are supposed to be. You know, we're supposed to come together and have fun, just being together and working on something, get our mind off of all the reality of the world and the stresses in our lives. These cars they're not always fun to work on. And this car for a long time wasn't being fun to work on. And then when I seen my nephew come in and he sat in the car at the end of the day, and you know, seeing him, arm hanging out of the window, and the car even started rolling, you know, like it kind of just took off. And when it did that, man, to see the smile on his face was like, you know, this is the reason we do it. I mean, the reason you work on cars isn't for the cars, it's for the people that are involved along the way, and for the people you meet at the racetrack. And just to see that connection bring me and my nephew closer together than we ever were, you know, is it's got a special place in my heart. That's the reason the Fiat will be with us for a long time. Now that we got the engine and transmission, and we had to focus on the rest of the sheet metal. The last piece we had was that tail pan, which is where I decided to put the name of the car, and there's nobody better to paint it there than Dave North.
Yeah, it seems like we're all on the axle situation.
So I'm heading over to my buddy Levi's. He's got the little axle stubs for us. He's gonna turn those on the lathe to get the little ridge off for the CV axle. I pulled a set out of the parts car, so he's gonna turn the back side and get that little ridge off. And then he actually has a CNC machine over there, and he's measured it all out and plotted it. But we're literally using it for like a super precise drill press. Levi is a super good dude. He's actually, you know, I've never really talked to him about this, but when I was a little kid, my dad and one of his family members were good buddies, and I always looked up to Levi.
The biggest thing is this axle situation.
Yeah, the hard thing with this whole car has been taking everything they did in the 70s and throughout the 80s and respecting it enough to not just cut the shell of the car off and put it on our car. I really wanted to fix the car that was there. Well, the way it was built back then is they put an IRS transaxle in it. So it's not a swing axle, has like a straight arm that comes out, and they're a lot stronger than these IRSs, we've come to find out. But I wanted to put it back together the way they had it. Well, they had these slip axles made for it. I mean, whoever did it put a lot of effort into making this IRS work, so I kind of wanted to see it work with everything it had back then too. These axles though, they had U-joints in them that didn't exist. I mean, we couldn't find numbers to match them. I took them to my buddy at Hills 4x4, which he's never not been able to find something for me, and he called me and said, man, you may have to get like actual CV axles made for this thing, because I don't know how we can even service these. Well, then he ended up sending me to a guy, Indy Rack and Axle, and I took it up there, and they said even if we have to make them from scratch, we can fill this gap, you know. So that started making me feel like, oh my gosh, we might actually be able to get this done. They couldn't really give me a time. They couldn't really tell me any real information. Everything's so hard to get a hold of right now. So here we are with the car that we've started, we think runs and will operate, but it can't move without drive shafts. So that was like a panic mode there for 3 or 4 weeks was like, guys, we're gonna have to go just take the car and show it in Alabama. It ain't gonna move because we don't have drive shafts. Well, last minute, I think it was 3 or 4 days before we had to load up and leave. He calls me, drive shafts are ready, bud, come get them. So it was just, everything fell into place, and the world was ready for the Crusty Crab to be in Alabama, I guess. So I want this car to appear, I mean, it's a Crusty Crab. We all know it's gonna be rough, but I didn't want it to be like primer spots all over it. And I wanted the car to be a little red car. So I did the body work, like really fast blend in work on the rockers and quarters and the nose, everywhere that I'd paid attention to. And then I just went and found like a rattle can that matched, did a couple tests with it, and just blended it in for now, just so it would be all red. I got as close as we could to that, but that was like the last thing I needed to worry about before we did upholstery, you know. Well, when we go to do every interior, I try my best to do them as inexpensive as possible in our own cars. We're not getting paid to do them, so you need to keep it as close to that number 0 as possible, like always. I started looking around and going through everything as far as like all the material I have in stock, and I ran across, I'm so glad I kept these now, but I had these panels that I sewed up to make wheel covers for Don Tyree Francis's out-of-sight Camaro. And he ended up calling me and say, hey, I actually want those black. And I'd already sewed the diamonds, so I went, that's fine, I'll just set them aside and use them for something down the road. Well, fast forward 4 or 5 years, and they're sitting there, and I went, hey, I know what we're saving them for. We were saving them for the Crusty Crab. They had so much overspray on them where I hadn't covered them up when I painted the Nash. So I spent, honestly, I probably spent as much time cleaning the damn things as I would have just sewing new ones. But there was enough material in that to sew up the seats and the door panels and everything. And I spent 1 day on that. Like, you see the video and it looks like a lot got done. Even at the very end of the night, my daughter was missing me. You know, she couldn't stay inside without daddy any longer. Okay. So she came out and we sewed probably the most crooked lines that have ever left my shop. But they're the most special lines to me. I let her actually sew the last of the lines on the door panels we put on. And it was like the highlight of everything. This is why a car like this that I thought we were putting together to have fun with a couple times and sell has turned into where this is its home now. Like, I'm keeping this car. My kids have been involved in it. My family's been involved in it. My daughter sat down at that sewing machine for the first time and sewed right then, and hopefully in the future we look back of her running her own upholstery shop or doing anything on her own, and that has stuck with her, you know, and be kind of the stepping stone to a future for her as a skilled trade, you know, would be, I mean, I'm proud of her no matter what she does, but that would just be like a dream come true.
You can sew better than I can, sis.
Yep.
High five. Love you.
So on the last project with Banana Hammock, we got it shot for the magazine, we got it running and driving, we knew that it would at least start. We didn't on the Crusty Crab. Me and Walter got that thing running off of like a little water bottle, you know, of fuel. And I mean, it just went blah, 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 blah. That's it, that's all. So we knew that we had fire and we had spark, but we didn't know if the timing was set right. We didn't know anything about it. And I'm thinking, one of them guys at the track will be nice enough to help us out. So I pushed that thing on the trailer, loaded around, and I mean, it's so much easier to drive them on the trailer. I pushed it on trailers way more than I've driven it on trailers. But I get it on the trailer, and that's when I really start realizing how little that car is, because I went to move it around, and I was like, I'll just pick it up and scoot it over, and I did. I just picked it up and scooted it over. Get it strapped down. Oh, I did not feel comfortable about taking a car to the racetrack that I didn't know if it functioned or worked at all.
Did it? Crusty Crab's on the trailer. Tomorrow morning, me and Walter are gonna leave out super early and head to Huntsville, Alabama with Southeast Gas.
Was he stopping her? Exactly right. So yeah, look at this.
Me and Walter get to the track, we get it unloaded. Oh my gosh. Rain, again, rain, first day, as always. Me and Walter get it set there. I tell him, man, let's get kind of settled in here, get camp set up, and then we'll try to jump in this thing and tune it to where we can get it running.
All right, we made it to Huntsville, Alabama. It's raining, so naturally it's our first day at the track. This happens to us every single time, don't it, Walter? We show up in the rain everywhere we go, so I'm sorry to these guys for bringing it here, but it feels good to be here. We got the car unloaded. Already had a couple people come check it out. We're gonna go look at the track right now and try to stay dry. I mean, we're probably gonna end up wringing our underwear out 5 or 6 times today, but let's go check the track out. You want to, Walter?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Ooh, this old track. I like how you walk through the stands like this. Pretty cool.
And then me and Walter decided that we were the guys at the track to fix the car and get it running. I learned on the fly how to adjust a Weber carburetor. Now I'm probably still not doing it right, but I can at least make it run. I'm confident enough to say that I could get it idling on its own. So after about 2 hours of being in Alabama, I actually drove the car for the first time. I did a little loop. It was running awful. It wasn't so bad, but it was staying running. It ran really good when I gave it full throttle, but what I didn't like, that was when I pushed the clutch, it was giving it throttle too. So guys, stay home, fix your cars, and then take them to the track. Don't do this. This is a bad idea. But we did get it to the track and we did get it running. Honestly, the biggest part of that weekend from like importance standpoint to us at the time was the Banana Hammock movie had just been put on there for like 6 days or something, not even a full week. My nerves were through the roof to see if that movie was going to do well and see if people, you know, liked what they seen and everything. Because here we're doing all this work on the next car that's like, maybe we've completely wasted our time on the last one and now we're just keep adding to the pile. Then when we're actually looking at the numbers and thinking, I thought our actual goal was to hit 1,000 in the first week, and we were like knocking on the door of 10,000. And that's when everything started really like, man, like I can actually sit back and breathe. This is working. You know, this is doing better, 10 times better than we thought it was gonna do.
The whole time we're at this race and talking to people, all of us are like checking the movie in between to see, you know, how many views we've got. And we were at Buffalo Wild Wings just eating and enjoying and just reminiscing of, oh my gosh, we're doing this. This is so cool. And it's very surreal at times because I am so proud of you guys. But that was the night that we hit 10,000 was the night before. So I'm pretty sure we were up late that night checking the movie, trying to see it hit 10,000 because we were always trying to catch like a screenshot of, oh, it's at 5,000, oh, it's at 10,000, you know. And by the next morning we woke up, and it's almost comical because we were not expecting any of this, was, you know, we went to bed and it was 10,000. We woke up and it was 14,000. And I think by the time we left, it just kept growing and growing. So it was so special to have exciting things happening in person and then behind the scenes too. So we got like, it was bombardment of joy. That whole weekend was just like boom, boom, happy, happy, happy. It was just so strange. It was so cool.
What are we stressing about? You know, I already have built cars before. I trust that if I put something together, it will function. It'll work, you know. And it really bled into going to the hotel. When I laid my head down, I didn't think about all the bad things that could possibly happen if this channel didn't work or any of that stuff. Just natural doubts were all kind of washed away based solely on the fact that so many people were giving us thumbs up and comments and everything on Instagram, YouTube. Everyone was cheering us on and rooting us on. It reminded me of like when you've got a fighter getting the shit beat out of him, and then the crowd starts chanting his name almost like Rocky, you know, and they start coming back. That's almost how I felt like we were getting, you know, getting built up. I thought that if everyone is coming in from out of town and willing to watch us do all this thing. Rooster Bowling came from Texas on a motorcycle to watch us run. I'm gonna go out there and do my best to put on a show for him on Saturday. And when we got there, that's the only emotions I had was, it's game time. You know, it's time to see what this little car's made of.
So I haven't seen Mikey race very much at all. Really, I've only seen him race 3 times. And the first time was with the banana hammock at US 60. And I was a nervous wreck, of course, but I was very excited because I never get to see Michael race just because I've been in college and that sort of thing. So to see him do his thing in front of people, it's always something special because he is a very dynamic person and people really like him. So I like to see him go and do his thing and people approach him and that sort of thing. My first exposure to him racing was the banana hammock and, you know, the death wobble, right? So we all know about the death wobble, and seeing that as the very first time I see my brother go and go fast, the wheel starts shaking, so I'm shaking and I'm running after the car like a goober. And so that was the first time, and then getting to see a couple successful passes with that car was very special, especially with the kids there and stuff. I was probably more excited for the Fiat because with the banana hammock I got the first time jitters out of the way, right? I saw him go down successfully, I saw him come back home safely. With Michael being my brother, I obviously have a different kind of love for him. He's a little more than my brother. He's kind of like a father to me at times too. So it's almost like you see your hero go and do something that could get him hurt, right? And that's scary because I think of Ruthie and the kids, you know, and I knew I was going to do this. And just anything can happen and go wrong, right? But it makes me feel better knowing that Michael built it. Walter was there to vet everything through. So I know everything's going to be safe, even though there could be a break.
So on Saturday when we got there, the other H-Gas cars were there too, which made it feel a lot more like we were really there to do something instead of just make fun runs. It always makes it more fun when you can kind of see your competitors. And then when you get talking to them, even the guys that came in to do like the displays, you know, like show what they're working on for next season, even talking to them and kind of brainstorming what they're doing, they're there to root us on too, you know? So it was just a wonderful feeling. And then when we get ready to start like prepping the car, I don't know exactly what we're prepping. I don't even know what the car is going to do. It felt like it was steering good. The brakes were working phenomenal. I still had that weird clutch thing to where it felt like the clutch was dragging the throttle cable. I didn't know then what exactly was doing that. But it was all functioning right, and I could let off of everything, put it in neutral, and I could shut the car off. So I wasn't concerned about it being a safety problem. Just a smoothly functioning problem was what I was having. But check the tire pressure, put fuel in it. They call us to the staging lanes and we follow suit. We just follow Paul and them and get into the staging lanes. And that's when all my nerves come back, just like always. You get in the staging lanes and then that little demon hits you that's like, oh buddy, you know, you're about to do this thing. So a lot of these guys you'll see, some of them even do a half-track burnout, you know. In this little car, I knew that I was not going to need to do that. The engine's behind the back wheels and we got slicks on it. So I know the little car is going to grip. There's no reason to add an extra traction to it. So I skipped the burnout box and I just drive. I really wanted to make a solo pass at first, just in case we go down the track and it does anything weird. I don't want it to be in the other person's lane. No matter how slow a car is, I always make a solo pass first. I don't want to put anybody else in danger. Adam Lowhorn's there helping me, and I kind of like, hey man, what am I supposed to do here? How do I launch? And he told me, treat that clutch just like your trans brake button, man. Just hold the clutch, rev it up, dump the clutch, you know, just like, I took that a little literal. So what I did is I ran it just like I do my Bug and my Nash. I absolutely floored that thing and floated them valves. And when that light turned green, I dumped the clutch. We went, I don't know, 5 feet. And then we broke the short shaft on that IRS. I originally thought, as soon as I heard my axle smacking, I thought, daggone it, one of them axles let us down. And then once we backed it off and crawled under it, I looked and I was like, nope guys, it's a little worse than an axle. We just lost that trans axle that I drove to Florida to get, and it made it 5 feet.
Oh, hey man, I didn't just break it a little bit, I broke the shit out of it. A lot of people would cut this race out of the series and just go to the next one after they fix it. But mistakes happen, man, and parts break. That's really part of working on cars. And it really helps you develop your patience. I used to not be patient about anything, and there's still plenty of things I'm not patient about, but this is almost like therapy, man. You know, like it really is. You gotta work on something to make it better. That's kind of the whole point of life.
And you kind of talked about how the pros and cons is like it broke there, you get to go home to your kids and everything.
Yeah, man, my kids don't give a shit if this car did a wheelie. They don't care. What they want's their dad to come home. And you know what? I'm gonna be excited to show them that I got the car running, you know? I did get the car moving.
Came off the ground a little bit too.
It did a little wheelie. My goal was to be the slowest car here and do a wheelie. Guess what? I did both.
Hey, 0 to 0 in 0.1 seconds.
That's as slow as anybody's gonna go here. Indy rack and axle builds a hell of a drive shaft though, you gotta give him that.
The car we were talking about, it's a good thing it broke when it did. Because if it had been on down the track, there's a good chance it would have rolled or hit the wall. And of course, yeah, you've got a good roll cage, you're strapped in, but you don't want to get hurt, you don't want to hurt the car.
So I've got all these people there to see it. I got my sister and Walter and Trent is there, and then all these people that have came in just to watch us race. Well, when that thing snaps and breaks and doesn't go anywhere, the first thing that goes through your head is, God, man, like, I let everybody down, you know? I mean, a lot of people probably won't say this. They're like, parts break. Bullshit, man. What goes through my head is, this sucks. You know, I am so far from home. I can't believe this broke that easy. You know, the car only has like 120 horsepower. I did not think I would be snapping transmissions. I truly didn't. But I did. And then it kind of like sinks into where it was like, I told Walter, I was like, man, I don't know what would be worse. I don't know if getting out there and hitting the wall's worse or if breaking at the starting line's worse. You know, it's not a good feeling. Because here I'm standing at the start line and all this anticipation of waiting for this light to go, it turns green and then I go nowhere. I'm not gonna get to see that return road, and it is a bummer. I drove 6 hours in the rain to get there to make a pass in this thing, and we went 5 feet, man. My goal that I said to Walter was that I wanted to be the slowest guy on the track and I wanted to do a wheelie. It popped a wheelie that you could maybe fit a thimble under the wheel, and we went half a mile an hour for 5 foot. So the goals were hit a little too literal on that one, you know. But after I calmed down, got back, everybody started coming over and it's like, man, shit happens, you know. I mean, this is at least. And then Adam Lowhorn, which I thought, man, I mean, I know I've done something wrong. And he comes to me and he says, if you're breaking parts, you're trying hard enough. And that's really what got me feeling, you know what, man, I did. I am here. I am in Alabama. I said I was going to be here. I am here. And we just went out there and I gave it everything it's got. And then some, you know, we gave it more. Well, and another thing, like when you do pull back in, and I mean, I say pull back in, when we push the car back into its spot, I know I say that we're competitors there, my other H-Gas competitors, but the honest truth of it is they were the first ones over there going, what parts do we have that we can get you back on the track right now? Come on, guys. I mean, there was AFX guys coming over and they have races to get ready for themselves. Like, we're in between rounds here and these guys are coming over like, man, what can we do? And it really shows you the family aspect that comes with a group like the Southeast Gassers, to where they're not at each other's throats and stuff. I mean, they're in the middle of a points championship and they'll be crawling under the car fixing a transmission for the guy that may or may not put them out in the next round. That, to me, the camaraderie is way more important than the competition.
What meant the most to, I think, all of us was just seeing the spectators and the other racers come up to us and say, hey, it's okay, I broke the first few times, it happens, like, I'm glad you're here. It actually probably turned out for the best because we ended up getting to go out into the stands and watch the races and enjoy the races. We never get to do that. So Michael was actually praising that break the whole time because we had such a blast sitting out there all bundled up, all wrapped up, eating our cheeseburgers and stuff, and watching other people do awesome. It was my favorite. It was my favorite time I've been to the races because not only were you there.
I don't think I'll ever get used to it, even though in a new car, and I get used to it, it's the same thing.
How's it feel?
So happy for Mikey, obviously for our work too, but I can't wait to tell him. He deserves it all. We're gonna read some of the comments now.
There, Trent. Walter, Michael, you know, we were all there, we were all having fun, we were freezing, but we're usually running around, well, you, more so than me, I'm standing in one spot, but you're running around like a crazy person, capturing all these beautiful little moments for everybody, because that's your nature. But it almost made you kind of put a pause and enjoy it as well. So it was a great introduction to the Southeast Gassers for Mikey, because he got to actually absorb some of the races and enjoy it, not just, okay, it's time to go, let's go, let's go. He got to kind of wind down and soak it in.
And the gears in my head started turning that maybe we need to figure out a way to get this thing to the racetrack one more time this year. So we have a blast in Alabama. We get loaded up. Me and Walter ended up riding down with me. So the whole time we've got plenty to talk about of like, what is the future with the Crusty Crab? What are we going to do? Where are we going to get these parts? You know, how are we going to do this? And Walter reminded me,
thinking, we got an old transmission, let's just put it in. The look on his face, like, you got to be out of your mind.
I thought, man, that thing has been setting for 15 or 20 years. I don't even know what the shape of the transaxle is. And he said, well, I'm willing to find out if you are. So I said, you know what? We thought we had a Thrash for H-Gas in Alabama. Well, in 2 or 3 weeks from Alabama is Shadyside, which is the season ender. You know, like, it's the one for all the marbles, the big one. Walter looks at me, I look at him, and he said, let's do it. Let's take this unknown transaxle out of this car. Let's drag it home with the tractor down the gravel.
Now we gotta shoot Jumanji style.
Ooh, you know what, Dad? There's no steering column in this car. and then let's take this car apart that we thought we thrashed to get ready, and let's really thrash to get to Shadyside. How in the world that plan came up, I'll never know. I don't know how I agreed to do that, but looking back, I'm glad I did. So me and Walter come up with this great plan, and then I'm like, okay, well, let's do it like tomorrow. And he says, well, I'm actually leaving to go to Florida on vacation, but I'll be back in a week or so and we'll just do it then. And I was like, okay, so we only have 3 weeks, and 1 week's gone because, you know, the heart and soul of this whole keeping us going, Walter's gonna be in Florida, you know? So I'm like, okay, well, when you get back on Friday, be ready to hit it hard. We'll get it. We'll get that car running and everything in 1 day, which gave me just a couple days to get ready to take it to Shadyside and commit to those guys. Like, I needed to tell them, hey, we've got the car fixed, because I'd already told them in Alabama, it's impossible to, there's no way I can get it running. I'll come to Shadyside and maybe spectate, but I can't bring the car. Well, that Friday, I get up and I get out here before you and Walter get there, and the thought is, I'll just start taking a couple things apart on this to, you know, to get it ready. So when you guys get there, we can really hammer on taking big parts out. And man, I don't know what was inside me that day, but when I started taking stuff apart, I was like, I'm fixing this car today. It is going to be running today. First gear's lower in this one than it is that one. Really? Yeah, hits way harder with this one. So if we broke that transmission, we're gonna destroy this damn thing.
How'd the throttle feel?
Oh, the throttle is fixed. What isn't fixed though is, I think the timing's off with how much fuel we're getting. Like, I think they've got it set up for like street driving, and we're flooding it. So when I've got it full throttle, it runs awesome. But when I'm trying to just drive it, it's spitting and sputtering, doing a bunch of wacky shit. So I actually got another distributor with out points. It's actually electronic ignition that we're gonna swap over. We may not even do it today. We may just hold off. But we'll put that in, set the timing at 32 degrees at 3,500 RPMs is what they said. And then Shadyside, here we come.
Yes.
Guys, productive day.
That was awesome.
It's done.
Hey, next year, county fair, mud drags, everything. This car is going on ice, it's going on dirt, it's going on pavement. This thing, I am racing it anywhere someone will have us. This is gonna be the most fun car that we've got. I know it's the slowest, but man, at the county fair, that little sucker is gonna rip, you know? So we're on our way to Shadyside, and we've got a car on the trailer that we know that works. So me and Walter already feel a lot better. But what I have brought up is to Walter is that, buddy, don't get upset if this car comes back broken, because we know for a fact now this is an old wore out transaxle. Nothing is new on it. We didn't even check the fluid in it. I mean, looks like it got pulled out of the bottom of a swamp. Expectations I'm trying to keep everyone's expectations low so I don't disappoint anyone like I did in Alabama. It's really what is going on in my head. We get there, everyone is so excited that we actually made it, And they give us a prime location. They park us with the rest of the H-gas cars right at the starting line, which, guys, I kind of think they did that because they knew how easy we broke in Alabama, and they were like, ah, we don't even have to shut it down. They can just push him back to his trailer. But the other H-gas guys are there. They're fired up, ready to go. They're already actually putting heat in their engines and everything. So we get ours ready, get it heated up, and fans start rolling in, you know. And a lot of people that had seen the Banana Hammock documentary, it had been out for like 2.5, 3 weeks at the time, and people started recognizing Walter, coming up and talking to him, and then coming over and checking out the car and asking how many cars we brought, which I had to sell parts and pieces and stuff around here just to get to Shadyside. So we definitely couldn't afford to bring more than one car. When it was getting to be about time to start running, they told us that we were going to get a pass in before qualifying, and then like first round of the race, you know, is when they were going to start throwing H-gas in our tank. So I told everybody, guys, I'm going to do a soft launch because I want to go down this track. I want to shift through the gears. I want to make sure that it still steers good and does everything it's supposed to for next season. This is almost really the test run to see what I have to fix for the 2022 Sega season. I drive it just like I would on the street. You know, I slipped the clutch, shifted the gears, and let off the throttle. Like, I really just wanted to feel it go down the track. Well, from the outside, it may look like it was going slow, but with me stuffed in that car, it felt like I was going 200 miles an hour. That car felt like a rocket ship. I get to the ticket shack, I look, and you know, like, I know I said with the Banana Hammock, like, it probably felt faster than it actually is, you know, so don't look like a dipshit thinking this. Well, this time I was like, I just like beat an H-gas record. That thing had to be the fastest thing. And I went 55 miles an hour. So, I mean, of course, we're not shattering anybody's necks when they're watching us go down the track, but it was still a blast, absolute blast to drive.
Yes, he did pull the front wheels on an easy launch. When he shifted second on easy, it pulled the front wheel a little bit. That told me the car was capable of really doing what our goal was set out to do. And it just made my day. Yes, I was nervous that something would go wrong, but to see the car go straight, see it go correct like it's supposed to, that just makes your day. Especially when you're the mechanic behind it, you know.
And I'm just grinning ear to ear. I am so excited. I am ecstatic, just so proud and so happy to be there. And I'm also running because I'm trying to make sure that I get in spot, because Mikey doesn't take his time and let everyone get prepared. He gets up there and goes. So I knew I had to get in place really quickly. So he got some air, which was super cute. It's the little Crusty crab, just getting a little bit of air in there, making everybody jealous. Then he takes off, and it is so beautiful. It is so beautiful, and I can't hold it in how happy I am. So, you know, just seeing the car go all the way down the track, not braking, and then he loops back in front of the crowd, the spectators, and I get this beautiful shot of him hanging out of the car, just capturing that moment of excitement, like, yes, we did it, you know. So that was the best. It's the best feeling when you see someone do something they love and they succeed at it. They may have not been the fastest, but who really cares, because you got there. After a break the first time, the car wasn't supposed to we weren't even supposed to be there. You know, it was a miracle that we made it there. So to go there and get a successful pass, it was perfect. It was beautiful. And I may not be able to bring a lot to the mechanical side of things when we go to races, but that's what's so great about having a camera in your hand, because you can step back, you can take yourself out of the situation, and you can just kind of try to capture something special. And it's easy to do around you guys. It's easy to capture something special because it is special. So one of my favorite things is seeing Walter's reaction, because he has such a passion for racing and cars and Mikey and the whole project. It makes me want to cry because it makes me think of certain moments with Papaw that I wish we could have captured. But Walter, Walter is such a sweetheart. We love Walter. After the good pass, we were standing there and kind of on this platform, looking down onto the car, looking onto Michael, and Walter said something to the effect of, we found the fountain of youth. We found it. It's racing. It's this right here. And it was just perfect. It was just so perfect.
Thanks to Mikey, I feel about 30 years younger.
Think so?
Thanks to Mikey, I feel about 30 years younger.
You look it. I think we found the fountain of youth.
Racing, it does it every time. When we're doing this, it's more like you're working with family, because you work together and you get to be really good friends, and a lot of times your friends are more like blood family than your real family. And it makes it a lot more fun when you're part of it. And there again, it brings back a lot of good memories of racing with people that are no longer with us, but they were like family. And it's a lot of fun.
We get back to the pits, we look over everything. Everything was fine. It steered just dead straight. Nothing wacky went on. Nothing bad at all.
As far as its steering and everything, it's fine. You know, it feels good. Hey, we went the speed limit, 55. That's 3 miles an hour faster than this went from the factory, so we're improvements.
Bad at all. We have to wait a couple rounds, and they tell us, well, this could possibly be the last run you guys get to make today, because there was a record number of cars at Shadyside. There was over 100 cars, and I mean, they were running nonstop, didn't stop all day. So they were like, guys, you may only get one more pass. So I was like, guys, let's hammer it. Let's see what happens. If we're gonna break it, let's just break it right here. I get to the line, I rev it up, I dump the clutch on that second pass, and deja vu. We're back at Alabama again with the same broke short shaft as we had there. And what I'm realizing is that what we're doing here is we're trying to lift up 1,500 pounds with me in it. We're trying to lift up 1,600 pounds with one wheel, it being an open drive line. We need a spool, we need hardened shafts, and we knew we needed all this stuff.
The second goal was to flatten the tailpipe. That was our goal. If it wouldn't have broke when it did, we probably would have. But there again, it broke at a good spot because we weren't going at high speed, we weren't doing anything, running way up in the air where it'd go sideways.
It was awesome to look back now and say, we did it. We went down the track with the Southeast Gassers, and in a weird way, kind of started making notes on what all we need to change that we weren't even planning to in the first, just to keep up with those other bugs and what the future of the Crusty Crab will actually be.
Man, you're leaking something now.
Yeah, I broke it good this time.
What'd you break this time?
The same shaft as last time. Well,
Same song, same dance?
hey man, we know how to fix it though.
It's hot rodding right here.
This is all it is, man. Look at the chunks of like dirt just falling. Look, I didn't change the oil in that thing or nothing. Look how nasty, man.
Looks like Reese's.
Chocolate milk. It's got grass falling out of it, I think. Same damn thing.
What's it gonna do? Hey, is there a way we can just weld it right before
Same great. I mean, it looks just as clean. Hey, consistency is key, kids.
breaking, is there a hard aftermarket something you can get?
Oh, for sure,
What
yeah.
do they got, brother?
Yeah. Bro, that's the... Why, you want to sponsor an H-Gas car?
I just wonder what the, yeah,
We're there, finished up for the day, loading up, talking to Walter about what are the plans with the Fiat for next season. And how are we ever going to be able to afford to make this little Fiat with this IRS and everything outrun, you know, the sauerkraut and Beelzebub and all these Volkswagens that are just rocket ships. And I decided then, you know what, Walter, you've been out of the driver's seat long enough. The Crusty Crab is going to be piloted by Walter next year, and we're going to build another car for me to run an H-Gas because, to be honest with you, I know we broke at 2 races, but I have never felt more willing to go to every race in a series than when I did go into the Southeast Gassers. I mean, I'm actually really looking forward to next season, and I thought, you know, instead of spending 20 grand on the Fiat to potentially still not keep up with them, I'm going to build a Crosley. I've already bought a parts truck off of Clay, a Crosley parts truck, and he has a wagon, like just the shell of the body, and I wanted to do a wagon for H-Gas. Got a hold of Clay. He hooked us up with all that stuff like he always does. Clay's an awesome dude. And we're going to do a little 4-cylinder, Muncie 4-speed, and then I'll actually be able to put a rear end in the back of it that I can control the gear sets to try to keep up with those guys. Not saying we are going to be able to keep up with them, but I think we will affordably be able to keep up with that class just as well with that Crosley than we ever would with the Fiat. But that really has set that, you know, on its path to being the next H-Gas car to come from here at Paper to Pavement. And you know, I mean, in wrapping up this whole deal with the Crusty Crab, I really like to sit back and think of all the new people we've met along the way. And you know, somebody that's always been in my life, my little sister, has never been as involved in a project with me as she has. You know, I mean, you've got the families like the Welches with Colby and his sister and his mom and dad all at the track, and you know, like they're like family bonded by drag racing. Hey, look at this, see? We've been supporting the Moonbeam all day. He rubbed my belly for luck is what it was. We've never had that, and I actually feel like unloading a broken car into the shop to call it like finished for the season, to a lot of people would probably feel like a failure. But I mean, even if it is like the tightness of the relationship that I have with my sister now, over her just coming along and being a part, I don't know, man, it really makes me feel like this car again will be in my family for a long time.
The relationship that Mikey and I have has developed a lot over the past couple years, and especially since we've started Paper to Pavement. Doing these projects with Paper to Pavement has given Mikey and me a different layer of commonality. It's given us something to connect on outside of things that we're already connected on, right? It's so special to get to be involved with something that touches people's lives and brings people together, you know, in a positive way, where your actions and what you're involved with puts love out into the world and brings love back. That's priceless.
You know, to wrap up kind of the whole year, Paper to Pavement wasn't even a thing this time last year. And to know that I get to be around all these people. We recorded what I thought was going to be probably the only movie this year with the banana hammock. It was taken in so well by the public and by my family and friends. And then to get to turn right around and do it again with the Fiat. And I tell you guys, like, I feel as if the more we come out here, the more effort we put in, the more work we put in, the more we're actually getting to live out our dreams. So I cannot wait to see what 2022 brings us, because 2021 was a great year here for my family.
So, what you saw was 2 Thrashes. One Thrash the H-Gas build and a Thrash the H-Gas movie. If you look right there, you can kind of tell I went through my own thrashing and my own staying up all night, doing the clips, but It's all worth it. It's all worth it. As we speak, it is December 29th. A few hours ago, we literally had everybody over watching the first draft of this, and now in a few hours, it should be uploaded to YouTube. But we made it. So, Mikey wanted me to do this. I also obviously wanted to do it. But my outro to this year for this movie is, I'm blown away. I'm blown away that we got it done. I probably have a lot of similar feelings that Mikey did when he got the car running at Huntsville. Is the same way that I kind of have getting this movie done a few hours before we needed to upload it. Just like the banana hammock movie. It was all worth it because with the response of being so positive towards us really fuels this movie and the movies to come. But having this platform with Paper the Pavement has given us so much already this year. And we're just so excited for 2022. With the stuff that I get to film with Kayla, Mikey, Walter, and everybody in far between, thank you. We love you. I love you. And if you support us, thank you. And I hope you guys enjoy the movie as much as I enjoyed putting it together. And hopefully you don't put more bags underneath your eyes like it did for me. But it's all worth it. And again, thank you. And we're just so excited for next year. And I hope you enjoy the movie.